Luke 2. Around this time, Emperor Augustus issued an order for a census to be taken throughout the empire. This registration, the first of its kind, took place when Quirinius was governing in Syria. Everyone went to be registered, each to his own town. So Joseph, because he was a descendant of David, went up from the town of Nazareth in the Galilee to the town of David called Bethlehem in Yehudah, to be registered with Miriam, to whom he was engaged, and who was pregnant. While they were there, the time came for her to give birth, and she gave birth to her first child, a son. And she wrapped him in cloth and laid him down in a feeding trough, because there was no space for them in the living quarters. In the countryside nearby were some shepherds spending the night in the fields, guarding their flocks, when an angel of Adonai appeared to them, and the Shekinah of Adonai shone around them. They were terrified, but the angel said to them, "Don't be afraid, because I'm here announcing you good news that will bring great joy to all people. This very day, in the town of David, there was born to you a deliverer who is the Messiah, the Lord. Here is how you will know. You will find a baby wrapped in cloth and lying in a feeding trough." And suddenly, along with the angel was a vast army from heaven praising God. "In the highest heaven, glory to God, and on earth peace among people of good will." No sooner had the angels left them and gone back into heaven than the shepherds said to one another, "Let's go over to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, that Adonai has told us about." So hurrying off, they came and found Miriam and Joseph and the baby lying in a feeding trough. Upon seeing this, they made known what they had been told about this child, and all who heard were amazed by what the shepherds said to them. Miriam treasured all these things and kept mulling them over in her heart. And meanwhile the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for everything they had heard and seen. It had been just as they had been told. On the 8th day, when it was time for his Brit Milah, he was given the name Yeshua, which is what the angel had called him before his conception. When the time came for their purification, according to the Torah of Moshe, they took him up to Yerushalayim to present him to Adonai, as it is written in the Torah of Adonai that every firstborn male is to be consecrated to Adonai, and also to offer a sacrifice of a pair of doves or 2 young pigeons, as required by the Torah of Adonai. There was in Yerushalayim a man named Shimon. This man was a tzaddik. He was devout. He waited eagerly for God to comfort Israel, and for the Ruach HaKodesh, it was upon him. It had been revealed to him by the Ruach HaKodesh that he would not die before he had seen the Messiah of Adonai. So prompted by the Spirit, he went into the temple courts, and when the parents brought in the child Yeshua to do for him what the Torah required, Shimon took him in his arms, and he made a bracha to God and said, "Now Adonai, according to your word, your servant is at peace, as you let him go. For I have seen with my own eyes your Yeshua, which you prepared in the presence of all peoples, a light that will bring revelation to the Goyim and glory to your people Israel." Yeshua's father and mother were marveling at the things Shimon was saying about him. Shimon blessed them and said to the child's mother, Miriam, "This child will cause many in Israel to fall and to rise. He will become a sign whom people will speak against. Moreover, a sword will pierce your own heart too." All this will happen in order to reveal many people's inmost thoughts. There was also a prophet named Hannah bat Panuel of the tribe of Asher. She was very old. She had lived with her husband 7 years after marriage and had remained a widow ever since, and now she was 84. She never left the temple grounds, but worshipped there night and day, fasting and praying. She came by at that very moment and began thanking God and speaking about the child to everyone who was waiting for Yerushalayim to be liberated. When Yosef and Miriam had finished doing everything required by the Torah of Adonai, they returned to the Galilee, to their town, Nazareth. The child grew and became strong and filled with wisdom, and God's favor was upon him. And every year Yeshua's parents went to Yerushalayim for the festival of Pesach. And when he was just 12 years old, they went up for the festival as the custom required. But after the festival was over, when his parents returned, Yeshua remained in Yerushalayim. They didn't realize this. Supposing that he was somewhere in the caravan, they spent a whole day on the road before they began searching for him among their relatives and friends. Failing to find him, they returned to Jerusalem to look for him, and on the third day they found him. He was sitting in the temple court among the rabbis, not only listening to them, but questioning what they said. And everyone who heard him was astonished at his insight and his responses. And when his parents saw him, they were shocked. And his mother said to him, "Son, why have you done this to us? Your father and I have been terribly worried looking for you." And he said to them, "Why did you have to look for me? Didn't you know that I had to be concerning myself with my father's affairs?" But they didn't understand what he meant. So he went with them to Nazareth and was obedient to them. But his mother stored up all these things in her heart. And Yeshua grew in both wisdom and in stature, gaining favor both with other people and with God.